I'm Brian Enton in for Chris Cuomo tonight. It has been nearly 2 weeks since Trump ordered a federal takeover of D.C. He employed the National Guard and several other federal agencies to crack down on what he felt had become a lawless city. And today, the White House is taking a victory lap after new crime stats came out showing that the plan has been working. And to help me break it down, I want to turn now to NewsNation Washington, D.C. correspondent Joe Khalil, live outside Union Station in D.C., where there has been a heavy National Guard presence. What's the scene out there tonight, Joe?
Yeah, and that continues to be the case, Brian. In fact, you can see behind us, you got one of these big armored trucks from the National Guard alongside three Guard soldiers, Guard troops there. To my right, another one, the exact same situation. You see the big armored trucks here. And what you cannot see, Brian, what's out of frame because it's behind you, is you have at least two National Guard Humvees and another one of these vehicles, all of them stationed all over Union Station. Now, what's interesting here is Union Station is a huge thoroughfare, Brian, for travelers coming in and out of the city. So people who are coming here from outside of the district, oftentimes this is the first thing that they're going to see in D.C. If you're looking for a presence, for a sort of show of force, that is exactly what this accomplishes here. Now, the D.C. Police Union has been supportive of this so far, despite a lot of residents who live here feeling the opposite. But the union says this is actually working, and they put out a couple of statistics overnight. Take a look. They're just comparing the first 5 days of the quote-unquote takeover versus the 5 days before there were National Guard. And you can see the difference here that they pointed to. Now, again, it's a very small sample size, but they say crime is down 8%. And look at the specific categories. Some of those drops are really drastic. Now, back out here at Union Station, again, this is a sort of show of force. Where you do not see this kind of presence is in several other areas of D.C., especially those that have statistically higher crime. Wards 7 and 8, if you're familiar with the area, it's southeast D.C. Again, higher crime areas, no National Guard presence. So we were there earlier today talking to several people who live there, including Tom Donahue. Tom, thank you so much for joining us again. No problem. So explain to people sort of the feeling when, again, you're living in this higher crime area and you don't see anything like this over there.
Yeah, I'll be honest, this is the first time I've seen the Humvees the whole time. I'm in Southeast, the Fairlawn community. We've seen no Humvees. We've seen very little any additional law enforcement. The very first night we saw Secret Service, about 8 deep, just walking down the streets, pointing their flashlights in the cars, almost like they were looking for trouble. That's not the kind of trouble we need, or the kind of coverage that we need.
Yeah. Would you welcome a presence like this, or if they would help at all?
Yeah, sure. We're going back to school on Monday. We need to make sure our streets are safe for our little ones going back to school. As an advisory neighborhood commissioner, I've requested additional help from MPD for an event that we had on Saturday, and then we were at Anacostia Park, which is a federal park. Asked for park police to be there. Not one showed up. Now, as an elected official, you would think that when we're asking for the help, that we would be plentiful of help. We've got all this stuff around us. Yet I can't get any help at a public event.
And Brian, I'll just add, we were over there today. We also had our Libby Dean at the White House asking them who makes the call, why presence here versus other areas. They didn't give us the why, but they did tell us the who. They say it's the interagency task force that's basically running the federalization. They make the decisions about where National Guard troops are posted up. But we're still asking them why here and not there. Not exactly getting a good on-the-record answer just yet, Brian.
Yeah, I think you said it, though, at the beginning. I mean, it sends a message. You've got this transit hub there where people come every day. To have it right there sends the message out, we mean business. Joe Khalil, Tom Donahue, the neighbor there, we appreciate you both very much. I want to bring now in another resident of D.C., Democratic strategist, Amishib Cross, and a man who knows D.C. very well, former Republican governor of New Hampshire, Chris Sununu. It's nice to see both of you. Amisha, let me start with you. You live in D.C., so you've got a sense of what's going on there. How bad has crime gotten? Because I've got friends who are there who are like, yeah, it's scary at night.
Well, it honestly depends on where you are. As a native of Chicago, that's where I came from before I came to DC. I'm used to crime hotspots in specific areas, and that's no different of any major city in America. What I do think is that crime has shown seismic decreases since what we saw during the pandemic. It was the wild, wild west in a lot of places during the pandemic, where now we're seeing some of those levels dissipate. When it comes to teen violence, when it comes to young people who are committing carjackings and attacks and things like that, we do have to and be specific, notably for women, particularly Black women, who have seen rises in that, and that causes a certain level of fear. The current mayoral administration has been working to reduce those, as has the mayoral administration in Baltimore, Chicago, New York, and several other places. But I think that in this moment, the frustration that a lot of people have, particularly those who, and I have friends who are at Howard and friends who, and coworkers who send their kids to places like Howard University, who are worried about what this means for the climate, what it means for the climate of young people, what it means for some of our businesses and restaurants that have seen less people actually show up because nobody wants to be in a militarized state. And honestly, what it means for our nation's capital, that is one of the biggest tourist attractions in the country, but also a place that is typically a little bit more leisurely this time of year. So I do think on the one hand, we want to see crime reduction, and quite frankly, we have. And we saw it for a while before last week when these policies were implemented by the president. But we also have to acknowledge that there are areas that are still hotspots.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the numbers are the numbers, and they've come out. I mean, 22% decrease in violent crime, all crime down 8%, 83% decrease, carjacking. I mean, look, all the arrows are pointing down since President Trump brought the National Guard in. What do you think, Governor? I mean, the numbers look much better, but at the same time, I understand what Amisha's saying. It's like when you see the tanks. I mean, I love going to D.C. You know, you feel almost like you're in like North Korea or something when you see the tanks out there.
Yeah, so look, I have no problem with what the president's doing, but to her point, Misha's point, you got to be in the hotspots, right? You got to be in the areas where the crime is most prevalent. You want to protect that tourism crowd, but when you bring those large tanks or whatever it is, the Humvees and all that sort of thing, and you kind of show that militaristic presence out front, it can be intimidating and off-putting, of course. And I go back to the crime statistics. Sure, they're down in Washington, of course, but there are parts of Washington that are still very dangerous. They're very violent. And again, if we can put some assistance in those hotspot areas, I think everybody's in favor of that, and especially as the gentleman that was being interviewed pointed out, school is starting, right? You want to make sure kids are getting off to school, and kids that are coming home late after football practice and that whole thing are coming in sometimes through dark neighborhoods and all that, that they feel safe, that the families feel like the kids are going to get home safe. So it's really important. I think they just have to kind of be a little more strategic about how they're doing it, appreciate the presence that they're showing, and yeah, it's the tourist season. You want people to be coming to Washington and feeling comfortable through the whole thing. So it's just about creating a balance, but it is our nation's capital, and we have to take it seriously. And look, if this kind of effort reduces crime even just a couple percent, all the better for it.
Yeah, and the gentleman we had on, the neighbor who was with Joe a little while ago, saying he hadn't seen a police presence. Axios is reporting that in the 7th and 8th Ward, there has been federal law enforcement there. And look, I get it when you live there and you don't always see the police, so he's concerned about what's going on there. But apparently they have been in that area. Amisha, I want to ask you, the DOJ, they launched an investigation into the local police saying that they've been lying to make their crime stats look better. What do you make of that? I mean, that seems like a bit of a concern.
Well, we'll have to see how the investigation plays out. I'm not someone to cast down an investigation when it is launched. We've got to see if there's like legitimate evidence that comes from that. I do think that in city after city, there has been reclassification of certain types of crimes. Largely, those have not been violent crimes, though. So I would question where this narrative comes from. But again, I'll see how this all plays out. I think that for the average person living in D.C. and the average person who's coming to visit D.C., their issue is understanding that they're going to be safe, that they can travel where they want in the city, that they can raise their kids in a city that is a globally recognized one, but also one where they can be free to enjoy the city for what it is. And that's the narrative that is the most important. We know that Trump and his administration has weaponized the DOJ in multiple fashions. We also know that Mayor Bowser is working very diligently and is basically given an olive branch to this president in terms of wanting to work with him on even reducing the crime that was still present in the city in those hot spots. And instead, there's this DOJ move, which again, not going to cast doubt on the specifics around the investigation itself. I would see how that plays out. But I do think that there's another way to have a conversation about how DCPP is housing their business other than using DOJ route, which is something the administration accused the previous administration of in terms of manipulation and using the DOJ in ways it shouldn't. And now we see this administration basically, whenever he feels that he needs to drum up a culture war, the DOJ is called in.
Yeah, well, it does seem like they all accuse each other of the same thing, just depending on who's in office. But we'll see what happens with that DOJ investigation. It'll be interesting. I've always kind of wondered nationwide when I do my crime stories. I think all the police departments sometimes manipulate things just to make it look better than it is. Because you'll go to a place and it feels so unsafe, and they'll say, no, it's been so much better for the last year, yet all the residents say the opposite.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.